This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
One of our people right now, Danny West, is with us from 247 Sports, recruiting analyst and expert, and we appreciate his time on National Signing Day. But I also wonder, Danny, back in the day when this was the signing day, you wouldn't have time to do any radio shows. So that tells you how things have changed.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. You know, about, I would venture to say 95% of your signing class typically is in the books by December. So, you know, it's a little bit different nowadays. Just not a whole lot left for Arkansas's class. You're sitting here at 16 signees. That's a really low number, the lowest number I can ever remember covering. So, yeah, it's just pretty uneventful for the traditional National Signing Day here in February.
Danny, what about the kid, the receiver that just, hey, man, the kid that just, I saw where he decommitted from Arkansas, and is he going to A&M? Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah, Ashton Bethel-Roman committed to or signed with Texas A&M this morning. Of course, Arkansas had to battle. Speaking of December, they almost lost him then, Matt.
Yeah.
This is a four-star kid out of Missouri City, Texas, Ridge Point High School, top 247 talent, one of the highest-rated committed guys on Arkansas's list for a long time. And then, you know, Kenny Guyton left. They had trouble down the stretch there trying to flip him. A&M was trying to flip him. Missouri tried to flip him. I think Ole Miss was in there a little bit too. So they had to fight off a few teams just to keep him in December. You don't see this a lot where a kid goes ahead and signs and then a month later asks, you know, out of his letter of intent. I think Arkansas was not happy to see him go. Obviously, you don't want to lose a guy like that for a lot of reasons. He's, you know, first of all, he's a really good player. Secondly, you're talking about a really highly ranked guy, so it hurts your overall ranking in the end. But and the perception standpoint, obviously, that matters too. But yeah, not really surprised that he chose A&M this morning. Texas kid, Missouri City, Texas kid. Most of the time, it's going to be really tough to get those out of there. And that was a strange one, Matt. I'm sure they weren't happy to see him go, but in the end, I mean, you can't sit there and beg a guy to stay, you know. So you're probably, I hate to put it like this, probably better off without a guy like that, because, you know, that just spells trouble in the long haul to keep a guy around like that if he's not truly happy. So once Kenny Guyton took that Wisconsin job, I think it was not all but done, but you were definitely hearing rumors that he wanted out.
Yeah, if you don't want to be here, then, you know, you want That's kids right. that want to be here. I'm with you on that, Danny. Hey, how has Bobby P been received with some of these kids coming in to be the offensive coordinator at Arkansas? Does he have his eye on anybody, or who do you think is maybe some speed on the outside that we could be getting going forward?
Sure. Yeah, we'll start with the speed. I knew Matt Jones was going to ask me about speed, guys, and so I actually got a little intel for you this morning. I was sitting here thinking Matt's going to ask me who the fastest guy is in this year's class, and I'll tell you, it's Cross Johnson, late addition out of New Orleans, Louisiana. After Bobby P came back, he went in and kind of snuck one in on us. This is a guy that we didn't talk about. You know, on the recruiting trail, Bobby comes in, fell in love with his speed. I think they feel like he's a diamond in the rough. The kid can flat out fly, Matt. I talked to him this morning. He told me his fastest, he's on record for a 10.54 100 meter, but the fastest one he ever unofficially was 10.49. So that's scooting pretty good. He told me he's still looking to get a 10.3 at some point. So he's probably the speed guy. In terms of quarterback recruiting, it's kind of a unique situation at Arkansas right now. When Bobby came in or returned to Arkansas, you know, they had to go get a transfer quarterback, and they did with Taylon Green, the quarterback from Boise State. Got that one out of the way, but you already had your 2024 guy, your senior high school guy, in KJ Jackson, and you also had 2025 already filled for next year's class in Grayson Wilson out of Maumelle, CAC, I should say. So, you know, with that, Bobby comes in, and all we've seen mostly is 2026 offers. So, I mean, he's targeting sophomores at this point. You know, you ask about his reception on the recruiting trail. It's a little bit different now than it was 10, 12, 14 years ago when he was here. Now you hear stories from Kane Archer, just down the road from you guys in Greenwood, of course, coveted national-type recruit. he tells me Bobby comes into their locker room, he's playing ping pong with the guys, and I'm going, wait, that's the same dude that I used to watch out there at practice, like a madman, So it's been interesting to see how he's kind of turned into more of a position coach and not just the CEO type overlooking everything. He does have personality, and he's putting that to use. So,
well, he got one of his guys.
He's still got a big name. Still got a big name out there. He carries a lot of weight.
Danny, he got one of his guys from A&M to come over to Arkansas, Jordan Anthony. I saw he's already made an impact with the track team. Here's a guy that you'd be interested in. I mean, he's a track star too. Maybe not the biggest wide receiver, but he's got the speed you're looking for, right?
Yeah, I think so, and that's another trend, Phil, that we haven't really talked about. You remember 3, 4, or 5 years ago, Justin Stepp, it seemed like everybody was 6'4", 210, and now we're kind of going back to the 5'11", 170, but boy, he can run type, and I think Bobby's always had that type of guy. It makes you excited for a guy like Isaiah Satania, potentially taking that next step. I think he's got all the talent in the world, all the potential to do it. And now you've kind of got a small collection of those type of guys with Johnson, with Jordan Anthony, Isaiah, and some of the guys coming back. So, it's been interesting just from a size and skill standpoint. They're really changing that receiver room.
Danny, are you looking forward to spring ball, and what do you want to see out of this squad? I mean, kind of what touching on early as far as just something that we can be better at. What do you hope to see something we're better at this spring?
It's all about offensive line to me, Matt. I mean, I think we all learned last year. Arkansas had a good team. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but you look at the roster last year, they had everything I think they needed to have a pretty good season, the type of season we expected, 8, 9 wins, But, man, if you can't block, as we found out last year, if you can't block it, all those skill guys goes away, man. It doesn't matter what you've got on the edge. So, to answer your question, I think I'm just like anybody else. Until they fix that offensive line and we can see tangible results on the field, and that's going to have to wait until the season. I mean, we can go out there and watch them in spring all we want, but, I got to see it really week 2 against over in Stillwater, Oklahoma State, those type of teams. You want to see it proven. So I think they've got a long way to go, a lot to figure out, but I like the pieces they've added there. I don't think they're done yet. I don't think we've seen the last departure from that group, the offensive line group. I think there still could be some more movement, outgoing and incoming, as we get into the spring months. That's probably going to have to wait until May. Of course, you get another 15-day window, transfer window in May, so that should be a busy one.
Yeah, I mean, we're expecting a pretty crazy 15-day window in, what is it, May 1st through May 15th?
That's right.
Is that going to be just absolutely nuts?
For Arkansas standpoint, I don't think it's just going to be, balls to the wall. Sorry for the phrase, but they just don't have very many spots left at this point, Phil. Yeah, they've still got needs to address. I would say a couple of offensive linemen probably need to attack defensive interior spots. I think they're only down to 5 scholarship defensive tackles right now, and that's not a great number. Going back to the offensive line, they're at, 14 scholarship guys? Really, you want that number up around 16, 17 at a place like Arkansas. So linebacker, of course, seen a lot of movement at that position group. Of course, Pooh Paul, Manny Powell, Jordan Crook, Jaheim Thomas, all 4 of those guys are suddenly gone, and you're kind of depending on a new transfer coming in, Xavier Sori. I think everybody feels good about him as a potential edge rusher type out there on the edge. He can do a lot of things. Now he's going to be asked to become more of a, go get 'em type linebacker, and you're kind of counting on some of these freshmen maybe to come on. So that's a little bit scary, especially when 2 of your really most coveted freshmen coming in aren't going through spring ball. Only one of the 3 high school linebackers is going through spring ball. So I'd like to see them at least get one more there, and maybe in the back end, if you had another spot in the secondary, maybe another safety if you could find one. That's just me being picky. But, the offensive line and defensive line, they've got to have a few more, no doubt.
I'm with you on that O-line. We'll get that shirt up a little bit. Danny, I want to see what your thoughts are on Coach Travis Williams' second year being the D coordinator. You get Landon Jackson coming back on that D line. What do you expect to see out of a Travis Williams defense in year 2?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. And then you have to go back and answer some of those questions. Who were you able to attract in the May transfer period? Because that's going to go a long way in shaping up this defense. Now, I like what they've got coming back at the defensive end spots. Obviously, they've done a ton of work to the secondary. I think the secondary is going to be pretty good, if I could say that. I know it's a roll of the dice. We've seen that burn us a few times, but I like where they're headed there. Really got to get a linebacker, man. I would like, and it doesn't have to be a superstar, a former All-SEC, All-Big 12 type. You don't have to have one of those. It's great. Don't get a guy with 3 or 4 years of experience who can, help you out in a spot and get some of these young guys a little bit of time to keep developing. You look at last year's roster, Antonio Greer, Jaheim Thomas, maybe not top 10 type transfers, but pretty good players on the field. If they could find one more like that, I'd feel a lot better about that linebacker group and ultimately the defense. But Travis Williams, I'll tell you, man, I did my report card on the superlative story this morning and actually named him Recruiter of the Year this year. So anytime a coordinator wins Recruiter of the Year on our site, that's a pretty big deal. And we haven't seen that a lot at Arkansas, especially on the defensive side. So I think that should excite people. Arkansas has kind of bucked the trend a little bit here lately. I think the overall quality of defensive players they're getting nowadays is much higher than it was even 3 years ago. I mean, when you can go out and get a couple of top 2-4-7 defensive linemen, you got one at linebacker, you got one at corner, and 3 of those I just mentioned are from out of state. They're not just homegrown products. So, they're able to go out and attract different areas now and pull out better players, and that's been a nice change. Now, the offensive line's got to come on some of these other spots, but Travis Williams has really done a good job, in my opinion.
Let's get into the in-state stuff and close on this. Is Arkansas making a mistake not extending scholarship offers to some of the better players in the state? We had Jackson Daly on earlier. I don't know where he ranked in state. I was impressed talking with the kid. He's a legacy. We know about Drake Lindsay. We know about Walker White and what happened with the kids from Pine Bluff. So, is the coaching staff making a mistake, not at least extending offers or paying attention to some of these kids? Because it's like, I think they know what they're doing. That's why they're coaches. But some people wonder.
Yeah, there's 2 parts of it. There's really 2 ways to ask the question. Some of those guys, they just got beat on. Courtney Crutchfield, Walker White. I mean, they went all the way and tried their best to get those guys, but just didn't work out in the end. That's a mistake, in my opinion. You've got to get those guys. Got to keep them at home in a place like Arkansas, but they didn't do it. The second part of that is, there's been a lot of guys, frankly, guys that, they get up here. Arkansas may have reached on them. They're an in-state guy. And we've seen it time and time again where they get on campus, and you already know as soon as they step on campus, probably not going to work out, probably going to be out of here in 6, 12, 18 months, right? And sure enough, that trend becomes true. We've seen it time and time again. So I say that to say this. You're sitting at 16 signees, and a large reason for that this year, a smaller class, is because they didn't reach on some of these in-state guys they used to reach on. And, you're talking about 3, 4, 5 guys. Yeah, that could have boosted your ranking a little bit if you had pursued them and ultimately signed them in the end. You're probably not talking about a top 25 class as opposed to being at 30 right now. But is that really helping your program, or are you just trying to make it look a little bit better on paper when you can use those 4 or 5 spots to go get transfers that or feel much more confident in being able to help you right away, if that makes sense.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.